The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Yes.
And we are live, hopefully, maybe, we're not sure over the last couple of weeks, to tape here on the W2M Network for the Kickoff. Good evening, afternoon, whenever you're listening, everybody. I am your host. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, the Down Since Day One co-host turned executive producer, Brandon Biskobing.
Yeah, and I can actually executive produce today because my computer is an idiot.
Hey, at least we get to have a show again today. That's all
True.
we're worried about. Go so well. The executive producer turned co-host turned executive producer turned once again basic co-host Erik Watkins.
Yeah, my computer was the real idiot, especially last night.
Well, not just last night, last week too, when we lost, what was it, 3/4 of a show?
Pretty much.
And the chairman of the W2M Network, Jason Teasley.
And Brandon Biskobing makes the O face as Eli Manning.
Again, the conversations that we have off air would get us kicked off of the W2M Network and Spotify, because Glacier's still kicked off.
I've kind of came to the realization the network is ran by you three, so we're good.
I mean, at this rate, there's not a whole lot of content elsewhere.
No,
so
yeah.
Soon, too soon. Ooh. This is Studs and Duds. Erik.
Okay. Now, I had a good stud, and I had a whole big thing lined up last time, but sadly, that was a show that was just lost to the archives, and, geez, I'm still pissed about that. To Canadians, I sincerely apologize. Wait 1 second. Gotta pull mine up again for this week.
All right, well, real quick, while he's apologizing to Canadians, the guy's last name was Gott. I think it was John Gott, if memory serves.
Yes.
If you guys want to mention your studs and duds from the show that we missed last week, we can. That's up to you. I'm offering the opportunity to do so, but still.
I can't remember that far back. I'm old, you know.
Yeah, I'd have to go really searching into the archives of our group chat.
I have mine on my notes. So if I so choose.
From last.
Okay, that means if Brandon has his on his notes, then I know what my studs and duds are.
How does that
I
work?
remember mine distinctly from last week, especially because this time I can get it right for once.
Oh, yeah, you mean Michael Thomas.
Yes.
How do you having your studs and duds on your notes correlate to me having mine? Because
Yes.
you fucking steal all of mine.
This week I know I didn't though.
No, Erik,
tried.
This was Eric's week.
Get to that later. Erik, have you found your stud for the week yet?
Yes, my stud is, I still say they're a journalism school because they are a journalism school. But Northwestern, especially their quarterback, Thorson, the first ever team to go winless out of conference. They started 0-3. What do they go and do? They decide, it's just the Big Ten. We don't really have to care. Let's just show up and cause some chaos. They're 6-1, and they're going to Indianapolis. Even I have to give them credit for that.
Interesting fact, their first game was actually in conference. I specifically remember watching it on a Thursday night when they took on Purdue to start the season.
That's weird.
Yeah, you don't see that a whole lot in the big conferences. I mean, the ACC does that traditional Monday night opener. I want to say Miami was a part of that against that was Va Tech and Florida State, on Monday night to start the season. But, every now and then the conferences do a one-off for the two teams in the conference to start the season early to get the conference schedule underway. All right, Brandon, stud.
My stud for last week was Matt Ryan, who just absolutely went off on a tear against Washington, throwing for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then my stud for this past week was the Bears, that Bears offense, who, once again, actually against, it was the Redskins that they played as well, correct? If I remember correctly?
Detroit.
Oh, no, it was Detroit. And they absolutely went off on a tear as well. So, those are my 2 studs.
Jason, your stud for the week?
My stud for this week is a rapist out of Pittsburgh named Big Ben.
Lord.
God.
Hey, I'm sorry, an alleged rapist.
At least,
let's at least use the alleged.
He yelled surprise first, so it's not rape.
Your stud last week was Drew Brees, by the way, Jason.
Yeah, because he threw to Michael Thomas, who was
Michael Williams.
Worst. I don't know.
He threw to Michael Thomas, who was actually Michael Williams. Okay, so here's a story.
Yeah, we had a midseason trade, and then you guys claimed that Michael Williams didn't play for the Chargers, and I had to correct you and give you the backstory about the back injuries.
That still went in the handbasket real quick, didn't it?
At least my Ben Roethlisberger joke is funny and clean. Granted, it's not fitting for this season quite yet. If this were next week, I could do it.
So is, according to the 2 girls he alleged raped. So
stop it!
See, this is why you get on me for naming Canadians, but then what do? They're just minding their own business, blocking, making plays, and chugging beers in the end zone after their team scores touchdowns. And what do you know? The Red Blacks are now just a 1 win away from making the Grey Cup again. I'm just throwing that out there.
Eric, I ask you, what's that all about?
Hey, we can get the former chairman on the line to figure it out.
Oh, trust me, I actually had to educate him on the game played in the Great White North, so he would be extra useless, which is damn near impossible.
Yikes!
Hold on.
Can we please move on?
Do you agree with? Okay.
We're moving on.
The swivel chair agrees.
You can talk to the chair later. We're moving on. My stud for last week was Nick Mullins, who balled out in his debut game for the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday Night Football against the Oakland Raiders, becoming to have a perfect passer rating in his very first game as a starter. My stud for this is Andrew Whitworth. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, who the fuck is Andrew Whitworth?
Old man Whitworth.
Yes, absolutely. Andrew Whitworth is an offensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams. And now I know what you're thinking. He's giving stud of the week to an offensive lineman. It is not the who he is, it's the what he's doing. Andrew Whitworth has donated his paycheck from Sunday afternoon's game against the Seattle Seahawks to families affected by the fires in California. That is stud worthy to me.
Oh, considering what you just said, and I know when we did this last week, I did on the so that happened even though we didn't have it. But let me give an honorary stud to the Packers organization for having a private jet and everything ready and having a backup punter ready for their punter who was expecting his first child when they were playing in New England last week. Or 2 weeks ago, rather.
All right, we flip to the other side of things here with the duds for the week, and we go back to Erik.
Yeah, mine are pretty much 2 teams that normally when you're showing up on a big stage, you expect to go out and at least compete. Last week, Kentucky, they really didn't do themselves any favors laying a complete egg against Georgia and then following that up with an even worse performance against Tennessee. And then this week, New England's defense. Now, I mean, I get the system. I get, opposing coaches who have been in your team, who have played for you. They know a good bit of the playbook and can prepare, but my God, 34-10, that's
hilarious.
There was just something wrong that day. I'm not complaining, but it was wrong.
Jason, dud.
My dud is Fitztragic and the Bucks, who compiled over 500 yards, and I did not know this till Harry brought it up to my attention, without scoring a touchdown. The first time ever in NFL that has happened.
Not just 500, it's the first time a team has had more than 450 yards in a game and not scored a touchdown.
That was painful to watch. I had two very painful games to watch this past week. First, it was the absolute shellacking that the Saints put on last week, and then because of that said shellacking, they decided to switch it over to the Buccaneers Browns game, or the Buccaneers Redskins game.
Washington.
Yeah, and it was competitive to start off, but then as soon as they switched it over, the Redskins took over.
Brandon, you're up. Dud.
My dud from last week was the Rams defense, who proceeded to give up over 50 points to the Saints. Granted, it is the Saints, but still, you're the Rams. You're supposed to be, well, not quite 50, 45. You're the Rams. You're supposed to be the, based on the record and everything, you would think that they're the Premier League or the premier team of the NFC. And yet you give up almost 50 points to the Saints. Well done. For this past week, my dud is the Bengals, and like I just mentioned, they did give up 50 points to the Saints. Both of these games, the Saints just absolutely went on tears. And to two, well, Bears not quite, or not Bears, Bengals rather, not quite as much. They're at 5-4 now. What?
They're cats. They're both cats. Bears,
yes.
Bengals. Continue.
But still, the Bengals started off the season very good, and now they're starting to fall off. And last week just purely solidified their going down the tubes.
I don't think it's over in Cincinnati quite yet.
No, not
I
quite.
believe there's still, not to mention, that division, especially for second place, is still wide open with Pittsburgh going off the way they have now at 6-2-1. My dud for last week was the Dallas Cowboys, who absolutely laid a complete egg in the Monday Night Football game against Tennessee, even though I will give myself a little bit of credit here and say that I called that happening in advance. My dud for this week is Cody Parkey, kicker, Chicago Bears. Yes, the Bears won 34-22, but Cody Parkey missed 4 kicks, and he didn't just miss 4 kicks. He managed to ping the same upright 4 different times with those 4 kicks.
I saw that on the post-game show, and I was just laughing.
Are you guys ready for the reference that I promised you for this particular occurrence?
Go for it.
I hope it lives up to the hype here. Do you guys remember Mighty Ducks 2 when Coach Funk was skating against the Iceland coach and they're playing 3-bar? That's what Cody Parkey did. He engaged in a one-man game of 3-bar.
And he still lost. Cody, if you're listening, buy yourself some lotto tickets, because God knows you're not doing that again.
I couldn't help myself. Once I saw that, I actually didn't see it live. I saw it on the Sunday night preview game, on the Sunday night preview before the Sunday night game, before Philadelphia and Dallas. And they show it all in all. I'm like, that has to be a that has to be a 4 times.
No, I even saw it when they were mentioning on Red Zone, when they cut to the broadcast. They were like, oh no, that's not a replay of the same kick. That's 4 different kicks.
Yeah, they specifically mentioned that on the pregame show for the Sunday night game. They were like, this is not a replay of the same kick. This is 4 different kicks.
The good news is the Bears won, so Cody Parkey lives to kick
at least the Bears won, and he can laugh at it. If they lost, his head would be on a stake right now.
Well, let's look back to the same kind of game that Mason Crosby had earlier in the year. It is a rough time to be a kicker in the National Football League. Let me tell you. Ain't that the truth?
Hey, you should know a lot about that, Harry.
Hey, our kicker is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not this year.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about current kickers. House money.
Yeah, the only thing is, it's just a rough time to be a quarterback. Well, depending on what team you have.
Okay, let's go ahead and segue that right into Pour One Out for the Homers, because this will be our mid-season review special since it got kiboshed due to the technical difficulties last week. We're going to go ahead and run on an abbreviated format tonight. We opened with studs and duds. We're doing Pour One Out for the Homers here. After this, we will go into our mid-season review, college awards, NFL awards, college predictions, NFL predictions. We will then close with Are You Serious? And we do have some updates in Are You Serious? There is a new ATS leader. I'll talk about it when we get there. Let's first move into Pour One Out for the Homers. And since Erik has decided to bring up quarterback play, let's go ahead and start with my teams. Let's start with Felipe Franks, who after being booed in the swamp on Saturday against South Carolina, proceeded to lead the Gators back from down 31-17 to pick up a 35-31 victory, actually shushing his own fans in the swamp. I have been on Felipe Franks for a year and a half on this show now. I do not think that Felipe Franks is the kind of quarterback that we need in Dan Mullen's offense. That being said, Felipe stepped his game up and brought us back to a big come-from-behind victory to move the Gators to 7-3 and chasing a 10-win season, because we play Idaho this Saturday, which we should win. We play a god-awful Florida State team next weekend, and then we have our bowl game to follow that. We could be realistically looking at a 10-win season in Gainesville this year.
I remember 10-win seasons.
To push that to the NFL side of things, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. And holy shit, where the fuck did Matt Barkley come from?
USC and Philadelphia and a couple other places.
About 3 or 4 other NFL teams.
That was meant more metaphorically than literally in this instance, but fair play. He played like he was back at USC this past Sunday. Okay, it was the Jets. Let's not get ahead of
yeah, really.
Jets.
Suck.
So it's not exactly like he's going to light the world on fire against some super huge team. It's not like he's Drew Brees lighting up the Rams, or Drew Brees lighting up the Bengals, or Drew Brees pretty much everybody Drew Brees has played this year. But this right here, and the fact that we finally cut the Intercepticon, things are looking up in Buffalo. Okay, I feel better. That was good.
I don't know. I mean, did you clean out his locker of all the voodoo dolls?
Yeah,
Make
really.
Sure you didn't leave one behind.
Hey,
you guys, you know how we were talking about Major League before we went on the air? We need the shaman from Major League to have one of his voodoo magic gimmicks.
I just thought of a funny segment just as we were talking about in the off season. If McAdoo got hired by another team, it would be stepped in McAdoo. If Peterman gets hired by another team and ends up actually becoming another quarterback in the NFL, we need Pickerman time.
I feel like, well, let's keep it themed with how we've done this year. Let's keep it with the Intercepticon. We'll check in on the Intercepticon.
Okay, fair enough.
Does that work?
That works.
All right. Erik, let's move over to you and let's talk about the dumpster fire that has become the Miami football Hurricanes.
Do I have to? Now, Kelly Bryant, I heard the news. December 4th is going to be a very, very big day. I'm just going to say this. Where would you rather be in months like August, September, October, etc.? Rather be amongst the mud and the pigsty that is Arkansas, or would you rather be among the beautiful women and palm trees and great weather that is South Beach? Don't listen, Mark Rick. If you're going down, you're going to start. It's in the bag. We won't even ask you for a whole bunch of stuff about Clemson right away. So just I'm saying, throwing that out there as just a viable option.
Real quick, before we continue here, I just need to say something. Jason, you might want to check your mic, bud. It's kind of giving us some bad feedback right now. I don't know why, but I'm catching like feedback. So, if it's possible, would you be able to mute it when you're not, while we're going through the other ones real quick? See if that helps correct the problem real quick. All right, I think we're good. Everybody okay?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, we're good now. All right, back to where we were here. Let's continue over to the National Football League side of things. The Jacksonville Jaguars come off of their bye, Erik, and back into the spotlight this Sunday against the aforementioned Ben Roethlisberger and Pittsburgh Steelers. 3-6 in Jacksonville right now, and your game has been moved out of the Sunday Night Football time slot because of that bad start. Your thoughts?
I wonder why. Jalen, look, we love you. You don't need to make the cryptic tweets. If you want to leave, we get it. Go to another team and get a ring. It's not going to happen here. And Blake Bortles, kiss my black ass. They should have never gave you money.
That was subtle. Do you guys think you have a snowball's chance on Sunday against Pittsburgh?
Oh, well, let's see. Given the fact that they just crushed Carolina 52-21, Roethlisberger had as many touchdowns as he did incompletions, and the fact that I started him on one of my fantasy teams, I'm going to say hell to the no.
Hell nah. To the nah.
Hell to the no.
To the nah. All right. Brandon, I can't believe I'm actually saying these words. The Giants are coming off of a win!
I hate to say it, but
a national primetime win, no less.
Yeah.
Against the
but this is against the 49ers. Come on, this is like you bragging about the win against the Jets.
Hey, well, now you can't everybody go up and take down Big Dick Nick Mullins.
Hey, I will have you know that the Jets had 3 wins going into that game. The Niners only had 2.
Exactly. So you have more of a right to brag than we do.
So where do you guys land this Sunday? Because I actually haven't had a chance to look at your schedule
we are on our bye, I believe.
Really?
We play Tampa Bay.
Oh, no, we play Tampa Bay.
So basically you are on kind of a bye.
Depends on which Tampa Bay shows up. Fitz magic or Fitz tragic.
Well, hopefully the team that was there last week that only proceeded to score 3 points shows up. But at the same time, like I was about to say, I don't know. I hate to be that guy, and I know that Odell put out the big proclamation of, oh, we're going to go undefeated now and still make the playoffs. Yeah, I highly doubt that. And at this point, I kind of hope they lose some more games so that they get a high draft pick.
I was going to say, of all the games to win, this game that you guys won against the 49ers could prove costly in the long run. Because if you guys end up tied with them come draft day, they get a higher pick than you do because of the head-to-head victory.
Mm-hmm.
So this one couldn't come back biting you in the ass. Jason, you had the opportunity to watch the team on Monday Night Football there. What did you think of the performance by Eli, bringing his team back for the fourth quarter, come from behind victory out from Santa Clara, California?
I mean, it wasn't nothing that lit the world on fire, but it got everything done that needed to get done. And I don't really care if the 49ers get a higher draft pick than us. They're not taking a quarterback. So we are.
That's true. That's actually a good point.
So, I mean, only thing, it'll help us because rookie contract will be cheaper.
Fair enough there. All right. Normally, this would be the part in college where Jason would talk about the West Virginia Mountaineers, who are coming off of an absolute drubbing of the TCU Horned Frogs. But here at the kickoff, we have decided to take this time to be a little more serious for this segment here, as well as how we will close the show tonight. Jason, the floor is yours.
As everybody that knows and listens to the show knows, I'm probably one of the biggest West Virginia homers there is. But in light of this being the week of November 14th and the fact that I do live in Huntington, West Virginia, I figured I would take this time to put aside my homerism for the West Virginia Mountaineers and actually remember the 75 individuals that died in a plane crash that were known as the Marshall Thundering Herd. This past weekend, Marshall played Charlotte, and no bigger game per year is that of the weekend prior to the fountain turning off. If anybody has not ever researched Marshall or even lived under a rock and has not seen the movie, I highly suggest seeing the movie We Are Marshall with Matthew McConaughey. It was filmed here in West Virginia. I used to live, I want to say probably 5 minutes from where the Marshall Monument is. And currently, my new house, I am 5 minutes from the actual plane crash site. It was a very dark day, not only in college football, but for the city of Huntington. Me and Harry, we have a little banter back and forth because of some of the old rivalry that Youngstown State and Marshall had in Division II. I cannot say enough how proud I am to be in the city of Huntington, and my wife and her entire family has ties to Marshall, even so that a family member of my wife's mother is actually referenced in the movie. So with that being said, I will take my homerism and declare that for this week only, I am a son of Marshall, and we remember those 75 souls that passed away that fateful evening.
We like to have a lot of fun here on the kickoff, but we can also have a very serious side to the show as well. This is something that I dare say none of us would deign to make a joke about.
No.
The loss of life is tragic. The loss of young life makes it even more so when you consider the fact that these were teenagers in early 20s in this plane crash. The fact of the matter is this, and we will close the show tonight on this very subject as well, so stay tuned for that. For this weekend, for this week, specifically for yesterday, we are all Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a college football fan, you are Marshall. Roll Herd.
Now, granted, this is more of for another show on the W2M network, but we all have teams that have had tragedies take place. For the other three of us, it's not in American football.
But at the same time, most of those were like stadium related, though.
Not all. Actually, Man U is the exact same.
Mm-hmm. The Busby
Munich.
I know Liverpool had a stadium
Yeah,
collapse at one
Munich
point.
or Liverpool has the two fan-related, stadium-related things.
Here's the simple way to look at this, everybody. Regardless of who you are, regardless of where you're from, the important thing to remember in a situation like this is these are young people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we get an enjoyment out of watching their athletic prowess every Saturday, and for those that are fortunate enough, every Sunday. But these are men and women, men specifically in this instance because it was a football team. But these are men and women who never got the opportunity to grow up because of a tragic incident.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we move on and try to lighten the tone once again as we move into our midseason awards. All right, we're going to start with college football here. And with us starting with college football, hold on, I have to go back into our group chat so that way I can pull up my categories. I know what my categories are. I just need to make sure I don't get them all screwed up here. We start with the Heisman Trophy race in college football. Erik, if you were to cast your ballot for the Heisman Trophy today, whose name is on your ballot?
Even though with the issues with the injury, but looking at the overall body of work for him and for the team, Tua Tagovailoa. I would think about it, but if we're talking today, he'd be my guy. Especially with how Alabama has performed throughout this season.
I ask Jason this question knowing what answer I'm about to get.
I stated this a couple weeks ago on the show we did lose. Tua would be a pick, but he hasn't had that moment yet. That Heisman moment when you win one down the stretch. Will Grier has. He went into Texas. He won the game down in Texas. So he has had the Heisman moment, and I think that would sway voters into his favor, and my vote goes Will Grier.
Brandon, Heisman Trophy winner. Who would you put right now on your ballot?
Right at this very moment, and it's going to be very interesting if he does end up sitting out the rest of the season, how it will impact the voting. Because I think at this point he is the odds-on favorite, head and shoulders above everyone else. It has to be Tua Tagovailoa. And I made this joke last week, or when we had the failed show. Robert Taylor, if you're listening, I did a little blunder on my notes and wrote in Tia Tuivasa instead.
For shame.
Well, we would do what a certain someone else mentioned, and I think that we need to start running with it. Hashtag Maui Wowie.
Somewhere Marcus Mariota is sad. I'm also going to go with Tua Tagovailoa, but at the same time, I'm going to preface this by saying that there are 3 people left that have an opportunity to win this trophy, and all 3 of them are quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. It is, once again, definitely the year of the quarterback in college football. The 3 people that I feel still have a reasonable shot to win this trophy are Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray of Oklahoma, and Will Grier of West Virginia.
And the good news is we'll see Grier and Murray go head-to-head.
At least once.
Oh, yes.
Do you think, especially if Tagovailoa sits out the rest of the season, do you think that game or those games would be the determining factor of who gets the Heisman?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
in my mind.
I would say yes to that, but at the same time, Nick Saban has already said that Tagovailoa will play against the Citadel, so I don't think he's going to be sitting out.
Oh, okay.
If he plays and gets injured, I'm telling you, I don't. It doesn't matter. I don't. Well, nobody can complain. Alabama schedules deaf, dumb, and blind schools off of I-79 on exit 14. Those games are nothing but to pad stats at the end of the year and ensure that they don't play any. Like I said in our group chat, the SEC needs to say, screw it, no out-of-conference games, play everybody in conference. That way there's no argument.
Or the Big 12 needs to expand back to 12 teams like its name says it is and get back into the national headlines.
Or they need to go ahead and do realignments and rework the TV contract so you have the Power 7. Job done.
Yep.
We could sit here and argue about this the rest of the show, but unfortunately we do have other stuff to get to. Erik, who is your college coach of the year right now?
Honestly, I really have to change this because I had something in mind, but this says a lot about me. This says a lot about the conference. But oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this.
Don't say the words I think you're about to say.
I think I know what you're about to say.
Are you about to say the words Mike Leach?
No.
I have a feeling I know who he's about to say.
Brandon, take your guess.
Dabo?
No.
No?
No.
You originally, I believe the lost show last week, I think you picked Jim Harbaugh here.
I did pick Jim Harbaugh, yes. But same conference, different team.
The Northwestern coach?
Pat Fitzgerald, because, God, I need a cookie after saying that to get the taste out of my mouth. But seriously, with the likes of Wisconsin, with the likes of the other, albeit middling teams in the Big Ten West, you come in 6-1 in conference and you clinch with games to spare a trip to Indianapolis. Now, granted, they may get slaughtered by Jim Harbaugh in the Big Ten championship game. That would make me happy on multiple levels. But I have to give you some credit for at least getting here.
It could also theoretically be Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes in Indianapolis as well.
Yeah, after their performances against the likes of Purdue, I'm not holding my breath.
I will remind you guys of the week that happened, my dud for the week. On behalf of the Big Ten. Moving on. Brandon, are you sticking with your original pick? Because your original pick was my original pick as well, so we stand united on that.
Yes, I am.
And that would be Brian Kelly, coach.
Yes. Brian Kelly, yes, it's Notre Dame, and yes, they've been good. But especially in the Brian Kelly era, they haven't done nearly as well as they've done this year, setting themselves up for getting into the playoffs. And especially considering the pressure that being the coach of Notre Dame has, he has to be the coach of the year this year.
I will say this much. The big thing for Kelly is USC looms on the schedule to end the season, but USC is in a down season. They're only 5-5. Their big test still to get to the college football playoff is actually this Saturday when the 8-2, 12th-ranked Syracuse Orange come to Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Play Notre Dame.
We'll talk about that soon.
Uh-oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dramatic reverb?
I think there might be some teasing of some reverb. All right, let's move on here. Jason, I think I know where this is going. If it's going the same way it went the first time, it's kind of hard to argue, honestly, especially if he's able to pull out the Big 12. Go ahead and homer it up.
I'm taking Zach Smith based on his Twitter account.
Oh, God.
Well, this just took a left turn.
Remember that stuff we said about being a respectful show? We apologize.
I mean, if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, please look up Zach Smith versus Tom Herman, and thank me later.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Would you like to give us your actual answer for College Coach of the Year?
It's going to be Holgerson.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, very large testicular fortitude in Texas. If he says you want to win this game, we're going to go win this game, and he backs it up.
There may have been another choice word in that sentence that we cannot use here on the kickoff repeatedly.
Oh, we use it. But I'm trying to after the speech I gave earlier, I'm trying to remain respectful for the rest of the show. I got the silliness out of my system.
Yeah, well, all I got to say is third time was the charm.
Real quick here, Jason. Last week for Marshall was a loss at Southern Mississippi. This week is the remembrance game against UTSA.
No. We played home.
I'm looking right at ESPN.com's college football schedule. This is
Saturday, November 10th. We played Charlotte.
I don't think so. I think you might be looking at the wrong schedule.
Marshall versus Charlotte 49ers. Saturday, November 10th.
Are you sure? Okay, I'm gonna have to look this up here.
No, I think that's last year because Sunday was the 11th this year, wasn't it?
No, it was Saturday the 10th because this Saturday is the 17th.
Oh yes.
So yes,
no, it's not. No, today's the 15th, and it's Thursday.
I owe Jason an apology here. The score that I looked up for Southern Mississippi versus Marshall was 2 weeks ago, not last week. My mistake. He is correct about the Charlotte game. My apologies. Okay, back to the scheduled show at hand here in regards to Brian Kelly and Notre Dame. You can say what you want to about Notre Dame. Regardless, there are a lot of people that view Notre Dame, South Bend, Indiana, as the epicenter of college football. And good is not good enough in South Bend, Indiana. There are coaches that have had above 500 records, way above 500 records, that have been shown the door in South Bend. Brian Kelly came in off of an excellent run with Cincinnati, but this was a Notre Dame team that was down in the dumps by the time that he had got there, having just fired Tyrone Willingham after, I believe, a 6-7 season. They are 10-0, and Syracuse and USC away from once again competing in the college football playoff. We expect it from Nick Saban. We expect it from Dabo Swinney. Nobody saw this coming from Brian Kelly and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this year.
Yeah, and the fact that the Irish are doing this without a linebacker and his imaginary girlfriend makes it even better.
Jesus. Poor Manti Te'o.
That's all anyone remembers him for.
He's in Seattle now, I think.
I thought he was in Indy.
I thought he was in New Orleans.
Wait, no, you're right. You're right, New Orleans.
I remember seeing him on a featured Sunday afternoon game a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember what team it was.
It was New Orleans.
Seattle.
Yeah, New Orleans. He went there after going to San Diego. Now the LA Chargers.
Is that where his girlfriend moved, Jason?
No. Don't you know in New Orleans they got that voodoo stuff to bring back dead girlfriends?
Okay, we're done being respectful for now. All right, good to know. Let's move on. Going back here. All right, let's go to biggest surprise of the college football season thus far. Erik?
I honestly am going to have to stick with Brian Kelly and Notre Dame because even though they've had that level of consistency and they've been on the verge of being contenders, I never expected an undefeated season, and my God, I am really going to need a shower after this episode. Okay, for First Northwestern, now I'm actually praising Notre Dame. The hell is wrong with me? Damn it, why am I sober?
Jason?
My biggest surprise is the fact that Tom Herman doesn't know the rules of college football. And the Iowa State Cyclones. I was going to go a different route and say Michigan, but Iowa State actually has, depending on how things go this weekend, they could lock up a Big 12 matchup versus West Virginia this weekend. And they handed West Virginia their butts at home. Iowa State was at home. They have some big wins, and they actually don't look like the give me game that they have been in the past. So, yeah, I'm gonna stay in the Big 12 and go Homer Conference.
His biggest disappointment is going to be a Big 12 team too now. I can see it. Brandon?
Yeah, I have to agree with Eric. We talked about it with Brian Kelly. Notre Dame is hands down the biggest surprise this year. No one was anticipating them going undefeated and being, I'm sure people thought they would be good. People were sure they'd be ranked, would make a good bowl, but I don't think anyone thought they'd make the playoff this year.
When we originally lost this episode, I made my vote for this team, and since we're kind of sticking with the whole theme here, I'm going to stick with this team, although I am going to add a caveat once I'm done sticking with this team. There is a college in New York, in the city of Buffalo, their team name are the Bulls, that has more wins than all three NFL franchises in that state combined. The Bills have 3, the Jets have 3, the Giants have 2. Buffalo, until this week, was 9-1 in the MAC. Now, granted, it's the MAC. They don't exactly play high-end competition in the MAC. But if you'd have told anybody that Buffalo was the favorite to win the Eastern Division of the MAC Conference this year, they'd have looked at you like you were crazy because of teams like Ohio in there, because of teams like Akron in there. Akron actually beat Northwestern earlier this season, Erik.
Yeah.
But these Bulls were 9-1 going into this week's game. And then they proceeded to play last night and get their ass handed to them by the aforementioned Ohio Bobcats. But still, more wins than all three NFL teams in the state combined. I stand by my statement that the Buffalo Bulls are the most surprising story in college football to me this year. Let's go to the other side here. Brandon? No, let's stick with Erik since he's opened all of these here. Let's stick with Erik. Erik, who is the biggest disappointment to you in college football this year?
There's 2 teams that come to my mind. One, I can make some excuses for. Key injuries, starting a reject quarterback, now a true freshman quarterback in front of, along with about a dozen other true freshmen. So they get an honorable mention, but they get a pass, even though I have to eat my words yet again. Not naming that team and naming my actual biggest disappointment, Nebraska. Scott Frost, I had a lot of faith in you. I thought that this was going to be a great story, going back to your alma mater, bringing them on the path to prominence, picking you and Are You Serious? And what the hell do you repay me with but abject crap? Really?
I saw that coming.
They're up to 3 wins now, Erik.
And?
I just thought I might try to help you feel a little bit better.
The cornfields ain't big enough. While I'm having my shenanigans and cursing my damn camera not working in a hotel room in St. Augustine, what are you doing, Scott Frost? You're getting it handed to you by Colorado. How do you think that made me feel?
Well, assuming the shenanigans were still in the hotel room, I'd imagine you were okay.
Oh, yeah, they were fine. I mean, like I said, it was like 45.
Family show. Family show. By the way, his honorable mention to UCLA, for those of you wondering. Brandon, now you go. Biggest disappointment.
I'm going to give an honorable mention to Wisconsin because I had them. I don't think I had them actually going to the playoffs, but I had them going to the Big Ten championship game, and that was they fell off the bed very quickly. But my real biggest disappointment is going to break Eric's little heart.
Go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
Rip
Yeah.
the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, the Miami Hurricanes have just been absolutely god-awful this year.
Mm-hmm.
5-5 right now, coming off of back-to-back losses to Duke and Georgia Tech. I don't think you've ever lost to Duke and Georgia Tech in the same season before, Eric.
Duke won in Coral Gables for the first time since the damn 70s.
How you like that? How you like that triple option offense there, Eric?
I can't even be mad at the triple option because I've seen it towards so many teams, and the fact that we were actually competitive at that game. But the fact that Wisconsin is crap too means that there is some justice in the world.
Freaking Badgers.
2-4 in the ACC. Like I said, Kelly, come on down. Well, you get us to a national championship, we'll build you a statue. We'll put it right out in front of Marlins Park, where the Orange Bowl stool should be.
Jason, you're up. Have you found the Big 12 team to label disappointing?
No, mine's going to be in the ACC.
Are you going to pick Miami as well?
Eric.
Oh,
this will brighten your day.
Oh, damn.
My biggest disappointment is the Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, all that coming.
See, Jason, this is why we're friends. This is why we get along. This is why we have unique conversations and text messages. You understand.
I mean, if this team in itself proves my stance about preseason rankings and preseason hype. They get ranked on name value alone, and not only has it proven this year, but last year as well, that they don't deserve the ranking due to their performance on the field. So they are very disappointing. And to be a Florida State Seminole fan, you have a very disappointing life.
And I know a couple of Florida State fans too. It's music to my ears.
Yeah, I know a couple of Florida State fans as well. Actually, one of my Facebook buddies, Jason Bieber, is a Florida State alumni. Actually, but I am going to stay in the South, but I'm going to switch conferences. Brandon, the very first episode we did of the Kickoff this year was our college football preview episode, was it not?
Yes, it was.
I picked a certain team out of the SEC to win the national title, didn't I?
Yeah, and I laughed my ass off at you. And I was right.
Well, I'm laughing my ass off at me now, too. War goddamn Eagle! What the hell, Auburn? 6-4.
Hey.
You are 6-4.
It's the curse of the Golden Knights.
Maybe that Peach Bowl did it, or was it the Peach Bowl? Orange Bowl.
Orange Bowl. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Was it the Peach Bowl?
It was the Peach Bowl.
Okay.
Because those are from a lactose-intolerant state that got their asses handed to them the subsequent year. That was the Orange Bowl.
Ugh, I'm sorry. More bad memories for Eric. Back to what I was saying here. Okay, so the LSU game I can forgive. It was in Jordan Hare, but it's LSU. LSU is ranked like 7th in the country right now. I can forgive that loss. Georgia's ranked like 5th in the country. I can forgive that loss.
And they don't. And LSU does not deserve that 7 ranking with 2 losses.
I think that who are LSU's losses? Florida and Alabama, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Florida's come into its own, but the Alabama loss, they shouldn't be as high as they are after getting shut out the way they did by Alabama. But anyways, back to my point here. Auburn, you lost to fucking Tennessee.
The team that's overhyped every year.
To Tennessee. You lost to Tennessee!
Yes, so did Kentucky, but I remember a famous Kentucky win from earlier this season. Who was that? I can't. They wear blue and orange.
It comes from a certain Sunshine State.
Eric, how'd you guys do against LSU again?
Yeah, well, we were destined to suck. That's different.
You know what's even funnier part about that is that I called that Kentucky game too.
I'm not the only one that's going to suffer on this part of the show, Harry.
Find a different co-host is what we're going to end up doing.
You know who beat Tennessee?
The chair.
Just letting y'all know who demolished Tennessee.
Yes, you did. Opening week of the season. Now, if only you guys could get that NC State game back. Although they have kind of fallen apart, though, down in where is NC State?
Raleigh.
Anyway?
I'll take 2 Oklahoma victories over 1 NC State victory.
I mean, at this point, you might as well, because NC State's falling to pieces. They just got it handed to them by Syracuse last week. Anyway,
do a favor.
Back to my Auburn statement real quick. Jesus, Jason, mute your mic.
Oh, it's muted.
Oh, there you go. All right, we're good. I don't know. I'm catching feedback from somebody there, but okay, let's continue
now we're
with
good.
the show here. Yeah, the issue I have with Auburn is the fact that the hype was so high on Auburn going into the season here because they had all of those pieces coming back from a team that beat Alabama last year and a team that had Jarrett Stidham, a 5th-year senior, as their starting quarterback. This could have been the potential for Auburn to run the table. I had them running the table in the SEC. I had them winning the SEC title game. I had them going to the college football playoff, and I had them as national champions. National champions don't lose to Tennessee!
Yeah, well, everybody was saying a lot of the same stuff about Miami, and look at where we are. Now you know how it feels.
Okay, but your quarterback was Malik Rozier. You had to kind of expect that. Aww.
Rozier! There's no wonder we didn't pronounce your damn name right.
No. All right. We now move over to the National Football League. Offensive MVP, Erik.
You know, Harry.
God damn it.
I'm looking up at my clock. I'm staring right at it. You know,
going off this ride.
Shall we repeat what we did last week, Erik?
Yes. What time is it? What's the clock say?
I believe it says Mahomes time.
Yes, it does. It's Mahomes time. Robert Taylor, you're welcome again.
Even though last week's one never made air.
Yeah, well, we redeemed ourselves.
There is no proof that show exists.
Exactly. All right, go ahead. Give your reasoning, Erik.
I mean, as much as a certain someone does things that, well, I've had done to me on multiple occasions when it comes to their fandom of Mahomes, I have to say it's a legitimate argument. Pushes the ball down the field, just great scrambling ability, on someone even underrated in his decision-making with how he's leading a very dynamic offense to, now, what is it? Still what would be the number 1 seed in the AFC if the playoffs were to start next week? I mean, yes, they did have a lot of success under Alex Smith, but Mahomes has given them an entirely new dimension and a lot of different uses for all of their weapons. So I have to hand it to them.
With all due respect, Erik, number 1 seed in the AFC is just a nice way of saying losing in the divisional round again.
I still say that would happen. It's not Reed time just yet. It's still Mahomes time. The clocks haven't changed in Kansas City, at least not now.
All right, Brandon, go ahead and expand upon your reasoning for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's leading the league in passing yards right now. He's up there in touchdowns. I believe he's either leading the league or...
number 1.
Okay, he is leading the league in touchdowns as well. He's hardly thrown any interceptions.
7 thus far.
He's just on an absolute tear. I will give one little caveat, though. This week, the game this week between the Chiefs and the Rams, I think is going to be the big determining factor to see who wins offensive MVP in the NFL. Because Jared Goff is right behind Mahomes in passing yards and very close in touchdowns as well.
And if you're on mybookie.ag, use promo code PAT to add 50% or bonus when you make your first deposit. The over-under for this game is still 63.5. Just saying.
Did you get paid to say that? And if so, how do I get a cut of this?
I didn't, but Pat McAfee, for the brand, I'm helping. I'm just saying, I'm right here.
Gee, we're getting worked. Jason, you have a Los Angeles Ram as your offensive MVP, but it's not the quarterback.
You can unmute your mic now, Jason.
Yeah,
I had my mic actually unplugged. I'm sorry. No, I'm actually picking the best running back in the NFL. 1,400 total yards, 13 touchdowns. Yes, I'm speaking of Mr. Todd Gurley. He is a freak of nature when he runs the ball. He is a huge reason the Rams are having the success they are. And I'm pretty sure that I heard him say, "Fuck Mahomes, I hope you have Christopher Reeditis."
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of stats here real quick about Todd Gurley that I just saw on ESPN here, Jason, that kind of back up your claim. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The second leading rusher in the NFL right now is Dallas's Ezekiel Elliott. He is 157 yards behind Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is 2 touchdowns ahead of the closest running back to him, Alvin Kamara, who has almost half as many yards. This is another big one here. When it comes to moving the chains, Kareem Hunt has the second most running back first downs with 44. Todd Gurley has 54 first downs rushing.
And you still think it's Mahomes' time?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm going to go with the same person I picked last time, and I'm going to give you my reasons why here. Okay, yes, Patrick has more yards passing. Patrick has more touchdown passes. But when you factor in the 7 interceptions that Mahomes has thrown, his touchdown to interception ratio is 4.2-ish to 1. My selection for offensive MVP is 21 touchdown passes, 1 interception, for a ratio of 21 to 1. He has a better completion percentage than Patrick Mahomes does. He has a better passer rating than Patrick Mahomes does. He has more completions on 50 fewer attempts than Mahomes does. My offensive MVP at this point of the season right now is Drew Brees, quarterback, New Orleans Saints.
Well, he can attribute a lot of those yards to Mike Williams.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Oh, yet that part of the show is the one thing that will live on in infamy.
You were just so passionate about Erik. I can't let you live it down.
Oh, I'm well aware. I'll carry that same passion to the Kentucky Buckets for next week.
If it's any consolation, we kid because we care.
Oh, of course.
Who's your defensive MVP, Erik?
Honestly, even though he's only got 35 tackles, not a whole lot, but 12 and a half, 13 and a half of those are sacks.
12 and a half.
12 and a half. Thank you. That ratio isn't so question mark-ish, but the fact that sacks and he's getting to the quarterback, that's pretty eye-popping, especially for a defense that, to their credit, helps buoy that offense even more. Aaron Donald, you got Ndamukong Suh teaming up with you. Lights, camera, whoop ass.
I could have sworn it wasn't Donald you said last week.
No, it wasn't. Things have changed.
I've convinced him to see the light.
Because I believe the person that did pick Aaron Donald last week was Brandon Biskobing.
Yes, indeed it was. And I've convinced Erik to see the light.
I've been converted. What can I say? I fall in love with those old uniforms. And, well, Minnesota's kind of...
But yeah, just like Erik said, he is the anchor to that defense, and that defense, in spite of the shellacking that they got put upon by Drew Brees a couple of weeks ago, they are still the anchor to that team, and a big reason for why they are 8-1.
Jason?
I actually agreed with Brandon last week, but this week I'm not going to. I think honestly the best. His stats don't reflect it because he missed a few games. But I'm going to go with the best defensive player because of how much he's improved the team that he's on. Does anybody want to take a stab at this?
Khalil Mack, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Actually, my best defensive player is John Gruden for trading Khalil Mack to Chicago. Because, I mean, I don't know what the trade caused, but it lit a fire under Mack, and he is on a tear in Chicago. If not for his injury and he missing his first 2 games ever, I think he would be in anybody's discussion.
The Bears were definitely right to give him that $140 million, worth every penny.
Yes, and he's earning it too.
Mm-hmm.
He has juvenilized that defense to people comparing him to the monsters of the Midway, and I kind of dig it. I mean, I'm not a Chicago Bears fan, but it's a nice. I'm an NFL fan, and it's nice to see a old school team like Chicago having that defensive presence that we have lacked in so many years of the NFL. You see all these high-scoring games, and Chicago is just that NFC North ground and pound blue-collar team again, and I kind of dig it. So I'm going to go with Khalil Mack as my defensive player of the year, despite the stats against him.
Now, if only they could get a quarterback better than Trubisky.
Interesting fact, Erik. Because of Khalil Mack's performance in Chicago, the man you originally picked last week and Khalil Mack will face off on Sunday Night Football this week as Daniel Hunter and the Minnesota Vikings take on Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears.
Now, that's going to be a good little battle I'm looking forward to. This is one game I wouldn't mind if it finishes 14-10, as long as the two of them ball out.
I'm going to stick with the same person I gave defensive MVP to when we did the show last week. Only 32 tackles, but 9 sacks. 2 passes defended. I mean, he's a defensive lineman. That's not a number that they're expected to have a lot of. 4 forced fumbles. And by the way, he's coming back after missing most of the last season with a broken leg. My defensive MVP for thus far of the 2018 season is J.J. Watt, defensive end, Houston Texans.
Yeah, I could see that. A Jersey guy.
We had this conversation the last time. We might as well have it again. Erik, buy or sell? Because we'll do this. It was a quick one here. Buy or sell? This is the best season for brothers in NFL history for JJ and TJ Watt.
I would definitely buy that hands down. I mean, what TJ's doing anchoring what is now a rejuvenated, going back to another old school defensive brand, how he's holding it up there in Pittsburgh, and with what Watt's doing yet again in Houston, you've had brothers and family members play on teams before. You have the McCourty twins playing in the NFL, but what the two of them are doing, my God, far and away best season by a pair of brothers.
I mentioned J.J. Watt's 4 forced fumbles. Jason, your pick, Khalil Mack, 4 forced fumbles. The other 2 people in the NFL with 4 that lead the league are Von Miller of Denver and Dee Ford of Kansas City. The stats back it up here. You could pick any one of a number of people. Granted, Erik and Brandon agreed on their selections here, but you could just as easily make the argument for Mac and.
Oh yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see who ends up winning defensive MVP this year, because all 3 of these guys have been on a tear this season.
The big question I would have when it comes to TJ Watt is, do you think the 2 will ever play together?
If they end up playing together, it's because JJ's come to Pittsburgh, not because TJ's went to.
Which, I mean, maybe the last season or 2 of his career, I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we move on to Rookie of the Year. I'm going to repeat what we did last week just because there's really no reason to drag this out. This is the only award for the 2018 Midseason Award that we are in unanimous agreement on. I will let Jason and Brandon have the floor here because he plays for the New York Football Giants. He is running back Saquon Barkley. Jason?
I mean, everybody ragged on New York for not taking a quarterback at number 2 this year and taking Barkley. I was behind it. I liked the fact you pair a solid running back with a great receiver and young supporting roles around him, veteran quarterback. The record doesn't reflect it, but the leadership that he's getting from Odell and the friendship he's made with Odell. I mean, everybody talks about Odell being the drama queen and everything. I mean, can you legitimately, that is probably one of the best core running back wide receiver combos in the NFL right now. He is a unreal physical specimen, and I'm happy to have him on the Giants. I mean, I look forward to many years of him being in Big Blue. Now, I'll defer to Brandon a little bit more because, me and him both share the fandom of the Giants. So,
yeah, I mean, just as Jason said, a lot of people said, they should have taken the quarterback, all that. Yeah, in the long run, maybe that could have been true because Eli has been mediocre at best this season. But I think they can definitely get a quarterback next year in the draft. And having that anchor in the running game is very important on the offensive end as well. And Saquon has shown in his first year that he is more than capable of being that anchor. And he's been one of the better players overall, not just amongst rookies, overall in the league this year. He's in the top 10 in rushing yards this year. So, yes, ninth.
I was going to raise that point. He is ninth at 586, and I just did the math real quick using my calculator on my phone here. He is on pace for a 1,000-yard season, Brandon.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's been a great player for them, and, most of the top rookies aren't exactly on great teams anyway, so you can't really hold the record against him.
Erik, it is well established on this show that my favorite college football team is the Florida Gators, correct?
Yes.
Who is my second favorite college football team, sir?
Penn State.
Where did Saquon Barkley go to school?
Penn State.
Saquon Barkley is a generational type athlete. He is somebody that comes along once in a lifetime with the kind of skill set and the kind of talent that he has. Cleveland made the mistake not taking Barkley number 1 overall.
That's completely agreed. Now, granted, while Nick Chubb has done me some personal favors, especially fantasy-wise,
tied 10th as well.
Yeah, and Cleveland was clearly trying to address the need at quarterback, but did Saquon Barkley, for everything that he's shown that he can do and what he can really add to an offense, yeah, you really can't go wrong with taking him. Now, if only Kyle Lauletta would stop, doing stupid stuff and having to deal with police, he could get in on this too.
1,041.6 is the yardage pace for Saquon Barkley right now, which I do believe would make him the first running back in close to a decade to go over 1,000 as a rookie.
And I'm going to point something else out real quick. What quarterback would not want to come in and be a part of an offense where you throw the ball to Odell Beckham, you can hand the ball off to Barkley, you have a strong, young tight end in Ingram, and a slot receiver in Shepard. That offense has the talent there. I mean, the lure of a free agent quarterback is there. You might have the options of quarterbacks calling and saying, hey, look, I'm interested in playing for the Giants. I want that offensive setup at my disposal. I made the joke around the trade deadline. It would not surprise me to see Derek Carr still end up as a Giant in 2019.
That would be interesting. The two big names out of the draft, and I don't really know what free agent quarterbacks really there are that would work in the Giant system that are good enough to be, on the Giants. But the two quarterbacks out of college that I would be looking at the most are Will Grier and Pat Shurmur's son. That would be an interesting dynamic, father and son.
Well, not to mention you got Justin Herbert out of Oregon.
True, that too.
Okay, so I need to correct.
He stated he's coming back to Oregon next year.
Oh, crap.
Real quick, I need to correct myself about one thing here. I dislike the Cowboys. I kind of put Ezekiel Elliott's rookie season out of my mind. Ezekiel Elliott actually had the third most rushing yards all time by a rookie 2 seasons ago. Before that, though, you have to go all the way back to Edgerrin James at just over 1,500, I believe. So, like I said, it's generational talent for Barkley.
3 of the top free agents, one being he's not really going. I don't see him hitting the open market, but I see him hitting the fact that he's either going to get franchised or have a offer sheet tendered. Is Matt Ryan. Then you have Tyrod Taylor and Teddy Bridgewater.
Matt Ryan would be the one that I would go after out of those 3.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Bridgewater. He's pretty much the quarterback in waiting down in New Orleans. They're definitely locking him up.
Also,
right.
Foles.
I think the Foles could actually make an interesting case here,
Yeah.
especially with how he's performed taking Philadelphia to the Super Bowl last year. We've seen that Carson Wentz has struggled this year coming back.
Yeah.
We'll get to the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit more later. Dun, dun, dun.
Dramatic reverb.
But for now, we move on with our midseason coach of the year, Erik.
I said it last week. I'm saying it now. Even after a horrendous, god-awful performance, with the personnel it's brought in, with how the team has fared, even including that, Ron Rivera has done a great job in turning Carolina around, bringing in Norv Turner to help Cam Newton, who's having a career year. They are right in the mix, along with New Orleans in the NFC South, fighting for a division title and getting closer to a playoff spot. Carolina, they've got a little bit of that fight back. They've got that big cat in them again, and that's always good to see.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't on display Thursday night.
Oh, no. That was a shellacking on all kinds of proportions.
Yeah, they got treated real rough by Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. That was shocking.
Brandon, how about you? Where do you fall for the coach of the midseason?
I know you say that, he's terrible in the playoffs and everything, and you may be right. He may not do very well come postseason. But as of right now, you have to give the award to Andy Reid.
I'm not going to deny that Reid's a great regular season coach. History's just not on his side when it comes to postseason football. We have seen many times here this guy go to the postseason with a team with a 1-2 or a 3-4 where he has a home game in the first round of the playoffs, and they choke out. Look what happened last year against Tennessee in the wild card game. They were up 21-0 on Tennessee in the wild card game, and then the Titans scored 22 in a row to knock them out in Arrowhead.
I won't deny that. But as of right now, he has to be considered coach of the year.
You were about to say something, Erik?
No, just thinking back to the time, Super Bowl 39, McNabb vomiting on our field again, and the Patriots won again, and I just wanted to punch people again. Oh, that was a rough week.
So that's one vote Andy Reid, one vote Ron Rivera. Jason, where are you casting yours?
I'm going to go with the coach that actually has a chance at the Super Bowl and has his team only sitting there with one loss, and that was to Drew Brees and the Saints, and somebody that is actually, sadly, 8 years younger than me, and that's Sean McVay and the Rams. I think he is probably the best coach for his age in the NFL, and he has a very bright future. And he's proving that if once he can gain the trust of his players, that he can lead them and produce. So yeah, once they shellacked the Chiefs this week, I'll expect an apology from Brandon.
And how do you think I feel? Because Sean McVay is my age. You were born just a couple months apart.
I'm older than he is.
You mentioned that Sean McVay is 8 years younger than you, Jason.
Yep.
Which would make you 40.
Yes. We don't disclose that information.
My coach of the year is also 40 and a first-time head coach in the National Football League. I'm sticking with the same person I picked last week here. He is the coach of the NFC North leading Chicago Bears. He is Matt Nagy. If you would have told me that 10 games into the season, okay, going on their 10th game of the season, so 9 games into the season, that the Chicago Bears would be 6-3 and have a half-game lead in the NFC North, I'd have thought you were crazy. Because I think everybody in this group here, all 4 of us, when we would have done our predictions for the NFC, unfortunately we weren't able to do an NFC preview special because schedules got in the way due to illnesses. All of us would have probably had Chicago at or near the basement of the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I know I would have had them in
I had them number 1. I had them number 1.
Sure you
I don't
did.
believe that at all.
And
I'm pretty sure I had Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears.
I think I had the Vikings and the Packers flipped, but yeah, Vikings, Packers, Lions, Bears.
I had the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, and Vikings.
yeah, I had Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears, and extra credit to Matt Nagy, arena football quarterback. I've seen what he can do on a 50-yard field. He was special. He's now able to translate all of that immense offensive knowledge and pour it into the half-empty, weird-looking vessel that is one Mitchell Trubisky.
I was on Mitchell Trubisky's ass last year on this show. I said that dude was going to be one of the biggest busts in NFL history.
I was right there with you.
And he now is the quarterback for the NFC North leading Chicago Bears. I freaking hate this show sometimes, Eric.
You're not the only one.
Watch.
That's why I drink and smoke.
Watch. Some coach is going to take a risk and is going to make you eat your words about Pickerman, too.
It'll be Ben McAdoo wherever he lands. Fuck off too, Brandon. How's that?
I hear he's interviewing in Cleveland.
Oh, God.
Oh, the Pickerman McAdoo combo for the Cleveland Browns. Can we get them to do another season of Hard Knocks?
Can we please get that now?
Can we ban those rules?
Unfortunately, they already have a former Buffalo coach doing well in Cleveland. Greg Williams got them a victory over the Falcons last week.
True.
Greg Williams couldn't win more than 3 games in Buffalo. Okay. Moving on before
I get Tyrod Taylor on their bench. I mean, didn't he lead you to a playoff appearance in Buffalo?
I'm going to get bitter if we don't move on, so let's do so. Biggest surprise of the season thus far, Eric?
Sticking with Ron Rivera, I didn't expect Carolina to improve this fast, this much. I mean, again, shellacking aside, I'll see how they can rebound from that. But overall, great season. Cam Newton, 67% completions going into Thursday, of course. I didn't see this coming. I didn't.
To be fair, though, even with that shellacking in Pittsburgh, still the 5 seed in the NFC right now, Eric.
There you go. Right there, still fighting with New Orleans for that NFC South title.
As of right now, interestingly enough, they would go to Washington, who I think they could beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
I could see it as well.
Brandon, where do you fall for the biggest surprise of the season thus far?
I'm sticking with my theme for the night, and I gotta go with the Chiefs. I don't think anyone expected, especially after what happened last year, you know, even with the big start that they had, everyone was thinking, oh, this is going to be like last year. They're going to fall by the wayside again, and they're going to become another mediocre, you know, a little bit over 500 team. And it still has yet to happen.
Interesting fact, too, about, just real quick here, because I forgot to mention this when I saw this here. Fun stat for the Bears. Tied for second in fewest points allowed in the NFC right now. Monsters of the Midway, indeed, Eric. All right, let's continue.
Thank John Gruden for that.
He was a real Gruden grinder, and that's why he's in Chicago.
The Oakland Raiders have allowed the second most points in the AFC.
Yeah, what were you saying, Coach, about not having a pass rush? I wonder.
What could have helped that?
Right?
It's the fewest sacks in the NFL. They are the only team in the NFL not to have double-digit sacks. Jason, who's your biggest surprise in the NFL thus far?
My biggest surprise is a broken clock that's right twice a day. That would be Patrick Mahomes. I'll be one of the first people to admit I thought he was going to be one of the biggest busts. I even went on record to say that he would not even be a top 15 quarterback. I stand corrected. And I have to give the boy props. He is balling out. He is showing that he deserves to be in the NFL. He's leading that team on a couple of crucial drives early on the season. I'm a believer. He's made me at least take notice and be somewhat of a believer. I still hope he breaks his neck and is paraplegic at some point just to shut Robert Taylor up. But that's the only reason.
Yikes. I know this episode is going to make air. I know this episode is going to go into our Spotify queue. Glacier can suck a dick. Brandon, make sure you're getting this because it is the only time you will hear me say this the rest of the season.
Shall I cue you in?
I don't think you should because I'm not Erik. My biggest surprise of the season for the NFL in 2018 has been Patrick Mahomes.
Do you know what time it is yet?
I don't observe that here on the East Coast, but if they do in the Midwest, more power to them.
No,
you're not on the East Coast, and Erik and I are both on the East Coast, and we do observe that.
Not to mention, last time I checked, it's only a handful of states, Indiana, Arizona, that would have those issues. So, it's observed in your neck of the woods.
3,000 yards in 10 games. 315 yards a game. 31 touchdowns means he's averaging 3 TD passes a game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the 7 interceptions offsets his TD to INT ratio, but there is no one, and Robert Taylor included when I say that expected these numbers from Patrick Mahomes. He may have thought Mahomes was going to be good. Nobody saw this coming. And if you say you did, you're a liar. The biggest surprise of the 2018 NFL season thus far has been the performance of Patrick Mahomes. And yes, for the sake of this conversation, I guess it's Mahomes time.
We have it on record. It's a miracle.
Yes!
I don't even drink and I need a beer. Erik, who's your biggest disappointment? My biggest disappointment is in myself for actually freaking saying that. Go ahead and give me your biggest disappointment, Erik.
I mean, I knew they were going to be just kind of okay, even with their quarterback, because I knew that there was going to be struggles, but I did not expect this much of a drop-off after one injury. I expected the Bucs to be terrible. I expected the Raiders to be terrible. I did not expect the Niners to be terrible, especially without Jimmy Garoppolo. I knew C.J. Beathard wasn't going to be the savior of Santa Clara, but even with the likes of Big Dick Nick Mullins, I expected more from this. I thought I would see a little bit more fight and a little bit more competency. out of these 49ers.
Brandon?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Erik there, and agree with all of his points. No, I mean, granted, it didn't help the injury to Garoppolo, but I don't think anyone saw them falling this far down after the injury. Let me just do, that is my official pick, but I am going to put a little side disappointment, especially now that it's past the deadline and everything, and he's completely gone. And yes, I have my own little personal bias. You can go screw yourself for screwing my fantasy team over. But that's neither here nor there. Le'Veon Bell, you just completely ruined your career. Yes, I know, Harry, you do not agree with me. But I honestly believe between, even prior to this, all of the weed issues that he had, and now with this, with him holding out for an entire season over a few $1,000,000, and also not to mention that, no team, he's going to still be asking for the, huge money that he's going to be asking for that Gurley got. No team that is a contender, one, has the money to pay you, and two, no self-respecting organization that likes having professionalism and does not like having drama surrounding their locker room will come within a mile of you now. So, congratulations, Le'Veon Bell.
Let me
you just completely screwed yourself.
I disagree. There's two teams that once the season ends will have enough cap room, and that can be contenders. Both one NFC, one AFC, and how I compared the best running back combo with a wide receiver. The Houston Texans definitely have the money to spend and can bring Bell in, pairing him with Watson and Hopkins. I think that would be a scary offense. Also, San Francisco could bring him in and pay him very well. Also, he could go to Baltimore and be the biggest rival and thorn in the Steelers' side. But early on, I was against Bell. As the season drug on, I kind of was glad he set out the season and he didn't pull a Sherman, play under the contract, get hurt, ruin his career.
Earl Thomas.
I'm sorry, Earl Thomas. Thank you for correcting me.
Who is your biggest disappointment, Jason?
My biggest disappointment is the New York Giants. I mean, I know I'm a homer and everything, but last year we can contribute that into we was snake bit across the board. Beckham breaking his leg, Brandon Marshall tripping over a walker and could never get open. Eli had no run game. This year we don't have those excuses. And we was picked to be contenders in the NFC East. Well, that went out the window very quickly. I think Eli is very well in the twilight of his career. If he plays one more season, I think that's his max life that he has. We need some offensive line help, and they just said, "Screw it, we're going to rebuild." So they're putting in a lot of made a few trades right before the deadline to get some picks, and Gettleman's going to rebuild through the draft like he did in Carolina. So a lot of high expectations coming into this year have now went out the window, and I'm going to go with, as much of a homer as I am, I'm going to go with the Giants as my biggest disappointment.
Erik and Brandon both agreed on San Francisco. Jason took the Giants. you'll notice the commonality there is that both teams are in the NFC. My team is also in the NFC, and even more so now that we've officially gone final on Thursday Night Football as we're recording this. 4, 5, and 1 with a perfectly healthy, playing Aaron Rodgers, a freshly returned Aaron Jones, and the full complement of wide receivers that you hunted going into the season after you let Jordan Nelson walk. My biggest disappointment thus far in the 2018 NFL season are the Green Bay Packers, who most of us either had winning the NFC North or probably at the very least challenging for a wild card in the NFC this year.
0-5 on the road. 0-5.
And you can't make the excuse of them not knowing the rules anymore, because that ended after the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Got rid of Ty Montgomery, shipped him off to Baltimore. What's really changed?
It's almost sad what's become in Green Bay right now.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers is more concerned about his State Farm commercials than he is about playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones came off of an NFL-issued suspension and has had a couple of decent games, but is nowhere near the pace that Montgomery had in his stead last year. Their two biggest wide receivers are Marquise Valdes-Scantling and Equanimeous St. Brown. Let that sink in. There is nothing in Green Bay now that concerns people. The Bears have Khalil Mack. The Vikings have Daniel Hunter. The Lions don't have much either, but there's a reason that the Packers and the Lions are the two teams in the bottom of the NFC North, and the Bears and the Vikings are facing on Sunday Night Football this Sunday night to determine who will be at the top of the NFC North. Congratulations. Congratulations, Green Bay, you colossal disappointments, you.
And because of what you just mentioned in Minnesota and Chicago, riddle me this. How much longer do you realistically see Rodgers in Green Bay or even in the league?
I still think he has a few years left.
I think he wants to play, but I think how much longer are they going to give him in Green Bay is the question.
I mean, he's still been playing good, though. I mean, it doesn't help that he hasn't been playing at 100% this year.
But the thing is they feel they have the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay now in DeShone Kizer.
True.
And even with those few years playing good, he's not at 100% now.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries.
The human body doesn't get better with age; it gets worse, and Rodgers is starting to break down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's not keeping up and everything. He's not subscribing to the TB12 clinic, that's for sure.
He needs to hire his own personal ball deflator. Oh wait, that's what Danica's for these days, I guess. Hey, good on him for getting Danica Patrick. I'll admit, I'm a little jealous. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on so I can reserve the couple of comments that I had.
We move back to the collegiate game now, Eric. I did not have a chance to listen to the college episode. I probably should have done so that way I could compare how badly our picks sucked. But for the sake of tonight's show, give me your college football playoff 4.
Bama, Clemson.
Does not have to be in order, guys. Just 4 teams you think are going to qualify.
Okay. Bama, Clemson, and I know this could, depending on how they would make it in, set up a potential rematch of some sort, Notre Dame and Michigan.
Brandon?
I'm going to give you 2 alternate universe force. And I think
Central Florida's not making it, so let it go.
What should happen if this was a real competitive sport would be Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and UCF. But what's going to happen is it's going to be Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Georgia.
Jason, I believe I remember where you went with this. I know you still have your original national champion in your college football for, but that's because you're a gigantic homer.
Mine's going to be Clemson, Bama, West Virginia, Michigan.
I think I know where he's going with that. Stay tuned just a little bit longer to get to why he's going where he's going with that, because I actually considered it myself, Jason. All right. As far as the four go, I don't see how you could leave a one-loss Michigan out. The problem is I think they're going to be a two-loss Michigan, because I don't think Harbaugh's going to clear that Ohio State hurdle.
I don't know. I think with everything going on in Ohio State, Harbaugh knows this is the year.
Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Well, it wouldn't be an episode of the Kickoff without some audio difficulties, would it, guys?
Nope.
All right, so that officially wraps up our college football playoff predictions. Let's go ahead and move over to the National Football League here. All right, so I'm going to let each one of us go real quick through these, because it's going to be your AFC division winners, your NFC division winners, and your wild cards. We are not going to do game by game or anything like that, just the 6 teams from each conference you have making it. We'll start with the AFC. Erik, go.
Patriots winning the East, Chiefs winning the West, Steelers winning the North, Texans edging out winning the South. And for my wild cards, Chargers, and I'm going to go Colts.
Ooh, interesting pick with Indianapolis there. They are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, though, having won 4 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, AFC.
East has to be the Patriots. North, Steelers. West, I think it'll probably be the Texans as well. And the West is going to be the Chiefs. The wild card, I'm picking the Chargers. And I think the Bengals are going to stick it out. I think they'll get their act together and keep that 6th spot.
Jason.
The Patriots, Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Chargers.
So you think Baltimore comes back and wins the North?
Yes.
Okay. I have kind of a bold prediction along those lines. Patriots take the East. The Steelers take the North. The Texans win the South. The Chargers win the West. Kansas City and Cincinnati are your wild cards. To the NFC, Erik?
Washington, they win the East. I think with the Bears, they hang on, just barely win the North.
Barely. I see what you did there. Barely.
Yeah,
Well done.
Yeah. Non-intended. Rams, they're on the verge of clinching. They're easily going to take the West. The South, I have to give the edge to the Saints for that one, but Panthers are going to be one wild card. Oh, second wild card. Damn it. I'm going to give a slight nod of Vikings. I'm really torn between Vikings and Eagles. Really torn.
Brandon?
East is going to be the Redskins, North Bears, South Saints, West the Rams, and the wild cards are going to be Carolina and Seattle.
Jason?
Rams in the West. South is going to be the Saints. North is the Bears. East is a New York football giant. Have you seen that? I have faith.
Okay, whatever you say.
Wild cards will be the Atlanta Falcons and Philadelphia Eagles.
So you have the Redskins, the Panthers, and the Vikings all choking away playoff spots.
Yes.
I don't think we see that many teams choke away the playoff spots. All right.
It's 5 till 12, and I need 5 hours of sleep. I'm trying to get through this.
Fair enough.
We'll let you go. We'll let you go first, and Are You Serious? And then we'll get to the end of the show, so that way we can do our shtick we have planned. All right.
All right.
All right, let's get through this real quick then. The final thing left to do then is for me to make my NFC predictions here. I have the Eagles coming back and winning the NFC East. I don't buy Washington as a legitimate threat. The Vikings win the North. The Saints win the South. The Rams win the West. The wild cards will be Carolina and Chicago. All right, and that brings us to Are You Serious? Now, this is our weekly prediction segment where we give our 7-point college predictions and 3 points from the NFL spreads. We have to pick teams that are at least 7-point underdogs in college and at least 3-point underdogs in the NFL. Starting next week, it was actually supposed to be this week, but since last week's show didn't officially air, we're going to next week. The numbers move up to 10 for college and 5 for the NFL. Real quick, a quick update of the standings here. Based on the fact that I have hit 3 games in a row, Brandon, I now lead you in the against the spread predictions. I'm 12-8. You're 11-9.
Damn it! I was doing so well.
You do still have the overall lead on me though, 8-7. The straight up lead.
Yep.
You have me there, 8-7. All right, let's get into our college picks for the week here. Brandon, we start with you.
My college pick for the week is USF and Temple. USF covering the spread.
Erik?
I thought about it, was waving back and forth, but at this point, go big or go home, especially after the last 2 weeks. Middle Tennessee plus 16 against Kentucky.
Okay.
Jason? I already know what this is. We talked about it earlier.
I am taking Syracuse plus 10.5 over Notre Dame. If it's not a straight up win. If it's not a straight up win.
I'm definitely leaning on the side of a cover here, not a straight up victory, but this is too many for me not to take it. Give me Duke plus 28 against Clemson.
Yeah, to a quick mention to SMU, I tried, but no. Harry, you can thank him for that one.
I think they're overhyped off of what happened with the Houston game last week. That's what it is. All right, let's go into the National Football League now. Brandon.
Eagles and Saints. I'm not sure if the Eagles will completely beat the Saints, but I think they'll cover.
Brandon, you suck. Thank you for taking my pick. Jackwagon.
You're welcome.
What was that, Jason?
I think Jason also has that. So we're all almost unanimous.
Erik, if you pick Philadelphia, we all have to pick a different game.
Oh, no, I didn't pick Philadelphia, actually.
Oh, well, good. We don't all have to pick
Go ahead, then.
Yeah, 2 dog crap teams slugging it out. Oakland plus 5.
Oakland is getting 5 from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of being a little bit different, I will go ahead and change my pick so that way we have something to work with here on the show. Move me to Detroit plus 4.5 against Carolina. I'll switch over to Detroit plus 4.5 over Carolina. Brandon, Jason, either of you want to take a different game, or are you guys okay staying on the same team?
I'll stick with mine.
I'm good.
All right. Let's get something out of the way real quick here. Jason, are you queued up over there for how we plan to close the show?
I'm getting there. By the time you're good to go, I'm there.
You'll be good to go? All right.
There.
You have been listening to the Kickoff, a presentation of the W2M Network, available online at W2Mnet.com. You can find everything you need to know about the worlds of professional wrestling, soccer, football, video games, entertainment, and so much more by visiting us online at W2Mnet.com. In addition, Kickoff is available on a multitude of podcast streaming services. You can listen to us on Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, CastBox, and we are also on Spotify. Yes, Brandon, I know I didn't do our bit here. There is a reason. For the Down Since Day One co-host turned executive producer, Brandon Biskobing, the chairman of the W2M Network, Jason Teasley, and the executive producer turned co-host, Erik Watkins, I'm Harry Broadhurst. Jason?
In the middle of Huntington, West Virginia, there's a river. Next to the river, there is a steel mill. Next to that steel mill, there is a school. In the middle of that school, there's a fountain. Each year, on the exact same time, at the exact same hour, the water to this fountain is turned off. And in this moment, once every year, throughout the town, throughout the school, time stands still. November 14th, 1970. We are Marshall.
We are the Kickoff, but tonight we are Marshall. Thank you for listening.